We are starting another phase of the MASSEY 540. You guys have been with us on the long journey, and I admit it's getting long. We've got this all done and ready to go. This casting here for the counter shaft is what I'll call it. It's part that goes up and drives the cylinder right here. There is snap rings that hold everything in place, so you want to be conscientious of that. I'm going to go over putting it together, what the bearings are and the part numbers. You will have to bear with me. I have a little bit of a cold now. This sprocket is no longer available. I touched on it in the previous video. Part number 34213-499M1 Sprocket 19-tooth double. So what we had to do, these are hardened teeth, so they should wear better. My machinist is thinking that the teeth on the original one were not hardened. So what he did was he cut it out, the hub, because we need this spline. So this is original. Then he buys a sprocket and makes a press fit. After he machines that down, this press fits into there. Then he holds it with weld all the way around and keeps it straight and true. So this is the alternative to this part. There is none that I could find anywhere that were new. As I stated in a previous video, Rodney at Scorpix did look them up, and they, in 2001, were $590. So I am going to have these available if someone sees this video and is in this trouble. But today we're going to get it going and get us mounted back onto our combine. I know I can draw these videos out. That's not my intention, but some details I like to put in there for the future. I put never sees on the splines, but you got to have it to where it floats in here yet, because you got to get your bearing. And the bearing is a Hoover NSK 6205DU, and it's a common just bearing that we got to get on, and then a snap ring holds it there. So I had this one in stock, and it is in new condition, so that's a win. I actually have two, and the part number for it is 22258X. And that's what I have here is a X 22258X. So power part coming into play in stock. That's a win, and we still have another one. So we'll probably be using it on the 300. Okay, guys, I had a whale of a time getting the end of that shaft polished. We were very gentle in removing it, but maybe we mushroomed it a little. I had to put it in the lathe and just run emery cloth on it until I could get the bearing to fit. That is a friction fit with a snap ring on the end right there, but it was a challenge. So now you want to make sure you hadn't forgot about the snap ring for the gear, or else you'll really be aggravated at yourself. This is the 63072RSR bearing made in Korea that goes in here. So that will go down on there and into there, and then a snap ring to hold that in place. And then this casting should be ready to mount back on the combine with all renewed bearings and a renewed gear. Okay, I finally have everything in. Snap ring is here, snap ring is there, and in here is the bearing that's fit in there, and then a snap ring on the back side. I never seized everything. we are now ready to mount this casting onto the combine. You got to take patience, and when you're putting this bearing on like this and you tap it down, you can shove it back and you're not fully seated. Even if you can get the snap ring in, you got to look back here at the shelf, right back there, the edge that the bearing comes up against, and then your sprocket will be lined up. I would have been about 3/16 inch off, which would have led to excessive teeth wear or problems with alignment and maybe the chain even causing problems. So now this is completely renewed and ready to go on the combine. This has all been installed and gently tightened down well, but do it by hand. You don't want to twist any of these bolts off. And the 540 did do this upgrade that I will be doing on the 300. This bracket goes down to the frame, and because this big belt puts so much strain on this mechanism, especially when they don't keep the variable speed adjustment lubricated up enough and it gets stuck, really puts strain on it. So that is an upgrade that the 540 has that the 300s do not. Got my crew here putting on our first cylinder bar, and then they are going to be putting them on and go from there. They're doing excellent work getting the bars installed. We got the old ones there, 2 more to go. I've been working on the fan adjustment arm. This is all in properly, so coming right along. Now I'm going to put the pulley on, consult my book. We should get the bottom fan assembly done today. So it's working out wonderfully. So we did the cylinder bars, and there was a few things I want to clarify. Bars that I got, the holes don't line up with the high inertia cylinder. This part number 249407 M1, and I think it's 408 M1. You got left and rights. I don't know what these are for, but the holes were like a 1/4 inch off. So they sold these to me. I got excited because they were $20 a piece. I was going to return these 7. They said they're still trying to find one, but they said if you return them, we're throwing them in the scrap because we don't know what they go on. Unless they went on an early 540. Some of the first ones did not have the high inertia cylinder. They had cylinders like these 300s with the stamped plates. So that's where they could go, early 540. By then, I'd already taken them to the machine shop, and by reading online about this gentleman, C. Trimpe Inc., Franklin, Indiana, and I was even going to go over and talk to him this spring, but my trip got delayed, and by the time I came back through Indiana, it was too late. They would hard surface, and they had come up with, you can read about it on the internet, of removing every other one of these to have better feeding. And they said like on clovers and things, you had better yields. So for 20 bucks a piece, I opted to have them machined that way. Now I did not hard service. These are just standard bars. But after I did all that, I brought them home and they wouldn't line up. You can see right there how much they were off. One hole would line up and then they were all off that much. So I took them back to my friend who's a machinist. We filled the holes and we used the old ones and we measured it out and we re-drilled them. We re-welded the holes shut and re-drilled them. If this is a complete failure, I can get the bars. The actual bars for the high inertia are $120 each, and you have 8 of them, so it's almost $1,000. There is probably aftermarket places also. So this is a complete experiment on my part. I do not take this as the gospel. You can decide on your own. I also had them weighed, and that one's hot because we had to add some to that And my boy is learning to weld, so don't knock him. The other ones are on there. We put weights on each one, and then like that one didn't hardly need any. We took the 4 that go left and we made them all weigh the same, and the 4 that go right. So when we got all done, we had to add a little bit to it, right there, across there. So this is a static balance. Look at that. We've got it. That's static balanced. It just comes to a stop. It doesn't roll backwards. So we've got it. That concludes the bar installation. Here's my team. They put in their first set of cylinder bars. Good job, guys. Very proud of you. Well, we had a little bearing mishap. Part number 339932X1 is the bearings that go in here. I took them to the dealer this morning to verify. The bearings that I had gotten were not the correct ones. Someone had changed them out in the box, or they had gotten packed wrong. So that's all resolved. We'll get the fan system on. Well, another discovery. I was putting the fan pulley on, felt the shaft move. This was the wrong bearing in there. Looked it up in the book. It shouldn't have a rounded race, and it has a lock collar. So that was wrong. Luckily, we had one in stock. It is the X number. I can't read this box, but we had one. It is 22258X, and that's what we have here. X-22258X. So another win. Didn't have to go back to the dealer. And that number is the 6205 number. So got to get that in there, and then on the shaft, and got another bearing changed. People, use the right parts. We have the fan done, and I put on a B5 up here and a B46 down there. Just a B&D global belt. This is a tensioned up, it's greased. This here is ran up. You have to undo this bolt when you want to adjust the tension on your belts. We changed the bearing back there. We found that the bearing on the fan was the wrong bearing someone had installed. We got that all taken care of. It's the correct bearing on. Luckily we had it in stock. We are getting this corner totally taken care of. Big pulley, big belt is up next. So moving right along. Our fan adjustment is out here. Everything is in order. Everything is lubricated. Looking at my book, putting on my belt, making sure I have all my pieces. Haven't lost anything, thank goodness. I have all of this done. Snap rings in place, as you can see. New bearings. We want to get this spacer on. That keeps your pulley from digging into your bearing. Then we have this key, 3.5 inches long. That should set right in there. We are looking at our book, proceeding through to this side. We've got 52 right here, which is bushing with shoulder. Got that right here. So we're going to definitely need that. And then we have our cup, which is laying over there, and our spring can, and what is number 50 here is a label. We got a label on the spring can. So 2 nuts, 72 is washer, 3/4 inch heavy flat, and then a grease zerk. So double check all my parts, and then let's slide this on and get this job behind us. This side is getting buttoned up. We are finished. We have these torqued to 120 foot-pounds. I like to put a line on them. At a moment's glance, you can see if they've moved. And Same way in there. We've got them greased. This is the belt. It is a 832873V1. I don't like it. Look how thin it is compared to the old one. I would like to see more rubber here, like this old one. But you have to take what you can get. When we took this one off, I just cut it, and I'm going to use it to make spreader rubber on the spinner back there. Looks like that's what someone else did. You can't really get that anymore. I checked on it years ago. I will check again, but I'm pretty sure you can't. So we'll be making spreader pieces out of that. And I think that's what was done before, because that's sure what that looks like. And we'll go from there. And I'm going to work on setting our concave and marking some adjustments. So that's going to be the next order of business. We'll get out the manual and we'll see what corn sets is. So we have corn 7/8 to 1.25 inches. I'm going to go with 1 inch. And then we have the rear of the concave 3/8 to 7/8. Now we don't want to chew up our corn cob, so we will probably see what that's set out and probably choose like 3/4 probably, and see what it does. But we'll get it set now. What I want to do while I have the throat off, and it's easy to do, is make some marks on the dial of where like the wheat setting is, and the soybean and the corn. And then that should give you a reference without you having to try to figure out and measure it, because it's easy now to get in here. The book talks about making individual pieces of wood different thicknesses. Well, I'm not going to do that today, but that is a good point to do. So we'll measure some tools and see what we've got. What I've done, use a 5/16 bolt. I got the cylinder bar down in here, and I got it to where the bolt shank passes through right there. So we've got 5/16. Now we're going to mark a W there. Concave should be even now. This side had been adjusted just like that. I don't think that side had ever been adjusted. I had to go 3/4 of an inch, and the top threads still had paint in them. So the concave would have been in there uneven on the back side. I'm surprised that is even be able to get it to that way. So you want to keep those even. So I've got 3/4 on the back side, 1.25 inches on the front side. So that is complete. All right, YouTube, it's Sunday afternoon. I haven't been reporting much in on the videos. We are doing the exhaust because it was all rotted off between here. We took the one off the parts combine outside, and it was all kind of seized up and about through. So you couldn't move it or anything. So last night I went to, this is 2.5 here. I went to AutoZone and got some flex. The welding is not the greatest. I had everything clean, but this stuff here just does not like to be welded to. But I got it 2 times around, just dotting it all the way around. You got to have 6.5 inches between the two with some flex. And since that was done and we were working on it anyway, I didn't want to come back. I actually still had one more piece of 3-inch from the original I did. We had several of those come in with a seed plant. They were spouts for running seed through. They're 3-inch and they're the same thickness and inside diameter as the original straight up stack. So we took a section out of that. We got a weld that we're just fitting right now and tacking it. That gets a clamp right there. That section we had to add. We want to get it level across there. And we got to add some on the other end to get away from the hopper. And I bought a 3-inch turnout. So that'll be on there like that. And that will direct the soot away, because I had a 300 one time, which this would be narrower right here, but it would blacken the tail end of the combine, and I don't want that to happen. So I've got a 3-inch turnout, and we're going to get this all mounted up today, painted high temp black, and the exhaust system will be done as long as I own the combine. I like to get them down because sometimes we get along some trees, and I've had that straight up one just ripped over from the tree limbs, and then it tears up the flexible thing inside. So that's what we're working on. We'll show you when we got it all finished. Okay, we have everything fitted. We put it on. We still will have to mount it to the machine, but I'll show you how we do that when it's done. We're going to now paint it with a high temp black paint. And we have everything welded together, and we should be good to go. And we'll have a tree-proof exhaust. We got our high temp paint on, and we hope to get it mounted up yet this evening. And looking good. So happy with how this is turning out. We got it done and installed. I don't know if you can tell it, compared to those 2 bolts at the top, it doesn't look level, but we have the level on it and it is level. So anyway, doesn't matter. It ain't like anybody's gonna be out there measuring it. I gotta put that clamp on right where the cast meets the pipe, and then the clamp on in here. We have our new flex line right here. This is all new, right up to the muffler. So we should be good. And we have it away from the paint and looking good. So tree proof, won't ever be ripped off again, and turned out away from the machine. Let's rock and roll. Okay guys, we got the top pre-cleaner assembly on. I have a new bowl coming for that right up there, so it's clear. That one's sun faded, but it's still good. We have the canister back in, all the connections tight. We've checked all the lines, and we even took it off at the engine. And in this one, they were running a safety filter, they call it. And that goes on first, number 71. And then we have the regular element, which is this one. The safety element is Napa 2519. So I'm going to write that in my book, Napa 2519, and the main filter is 2518. Those are the Napa numbers. Now, MASSEY number is a 258566M91, and that is proof right there. This one was changed in 93. So that's the proof on that one. And then the main element is 1040764M91. But they transfer over to Napa 2518 and 2519. That is for your own information. We got our canister all cleaned up and primed on the inside. Got this all cleaned up, ready to put it back together and put on the machine. We will have this part done. Air system completely serviced, ready to go to the field. Moving on next onto the next project. Okay guys, it's been a day since I have been talking to you because I've been so focused on wiring. I have eliminated the voltage regulator with the help from Gene at Battery Specialist and Matt Toon. Told me how to eliminate that. And instead of just clipping the wires that I didn't need, I took apart the looms, cut all the plastic black tape off like this, off of most everything out here. So it kind of looks like spaghetti, but I have it all straight. This kind of looks like spaghetti in here. I found a huge rat's nest, mouse nest in here. So we're going to put some Grandpa Gus in here. But the stupidest thing they did was this whole loom goes through this sheet metal hole with no protection other than the black tape that was around it. I don't know if you can see that. We wrapped a clear rubber around it and zip tied it. And we had to clean up wires in there because they had the main primary wire from the alternator that goes to the voltage gauge had been chewed through, and if we raise this up it would spark back here. So we had to check all those wires. These two wires were completely eaten clean, and they went to I think the oil pressure and the temperature gauge, if I remember right. I didn't stop to film because I had it all in my mind, and I was just tracing wire after wire, doing continuity tests. This will be back in the panel here that goes on the side for the lights. We have every light working. Hour meter gets hooked there. All of these have been traced and fixed and taped after quality connections. A lot of crimp and shrink connections were used. They're expensive, but they're worth it. I am deleting the dome light because I'm not going to need that in here. I just won't hook it back up. But all these wires had some chewing. This combine's wiring was probably 75% okay, but we had to delete. We were able to delete 3 or 4 wires from the voltage regulator. Now we have a single wire alternator on here, and everything works. So we're good to go there. We will be putting the panels on now, but I wanted to show you that. That there is a fix that needs to be done, and that was hard work. I took my son on the outside, but now that whole loom is encased in rubber and mice can't go through, except right here. I'm going to put some of those green Scotch-Brite pads in there, and you don't want to use steel wool in case it shorts out, but the green Scotch-Brite pads hopefully will keep the mice out of this compartment, and we're going to put a pack of Grandpa Gus in there. So we got to button everything up, clean up the cab. Wiring's done. We got good blowers here. Checked all the wiring. The wiring was really good inside there. We don't have air conditioning. That motor is locked up, but we'll get to that, but not today. Radiator is finished. I'm going to leave at 3 and go pick that up, and we're going to get we should be hooking onto the corn head tomorrow and test running some corn, I hope. So anyway, that's where we're at. These here are for the alarm. I did not go through the alarm system. I might hook it up, I might not, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. I did not go through the alarm system, like I said, but it's here and the wiring is good. So this is nice and clean. It's not leaking oil. So I'm excited to get the wiring done. It was a big task. I worked on it from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. yesterday and just had to finish a little. And now we have to put everything together, tape it back up, put some loom on things, get it all secured, and so everything will be working properly. Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, October 4th, and we have had a busy week. One day we had to bag wheat 600 units, so we could not work on it. But I've been out here working up until 8 or 9 at night because it's October 4th and it's time to shell some corn. So to give you a brief update and not to bore you, we've had this whole side done. We have all the wiring done. All the wiring has been traced, bad wires replaced, and with the help from Gene at Battery Specialist, we got rid of the voltage regulator and went to a single wire alternator. So that eliminated some issues, plus voltage regulators are expensive now, and it's just making it a better combine. I've got my oil pressure gauge working. amp meter gauge working. I think we will have the fuel gauge working. As of right now, I only have 6 inches in there, but we'll know when we fill it up. And today, we'll know if we have our temperature gauge. I'm hopeful because this is not that bad of a unit. So I'm hopeful those will be working. All the wires were traced. We have good continuity all the way to the gauges. It'll be a matter if the sending units are working. I was going to replace the sending unit on the oil pressure, but we have oil pressure. It doesn't give you a PSI reading. It just pegs out kind of at maximum. So I don't know what that means, being an electrical sending gauge. Bars are installed. Cab is all put back together other than we don't have the railing on. The cab has been cleaned. Using a ladder right now. All the panels have been put in place. This has all been cleaned. This was filled with rat droppings and nests. Blower works. Air conditioner is not going to be gone through at this time, but I'm confident that we can make it work. The fan back there is locked up from sitting, and that condenser will need completely washed out. I'm sure it's as packed full as the radiator was. I am optimistic that the hour gauge will be working. If not, I will remove this panel and flip the wires because I couldn't tell for sure which wire went where. The ground versus the positive. Like I said, oil pressure is here. The new regulator has this pegging out at plus, but I think the battery's just low from all the starting and stopping we've been doing. Don't know about temperature and don't quite know about fuel gauge, but I'm optimistic. So the cab is all cleaned up. We'll wash the windows today because my goal is to be driving this around today and hopefully getting the throat on. Air breather has been taken from the parts one, cleaned and painted, a new bowl bought so we could look in it. Whole air breathing system's been redone. All the wiring has been rewrapped. I took all that out. And new loom there, right down there, all the way over to the single wire alternator down there. Timothy has cut a nice carpet. We put some grapple Gus in here to keep the mice out. Plus, here's a hole where they enter in your combines. Shove some steel wool in there and make sure the air conditioner tubes and the wiring in here are sealed. And then the mice can only get in right up here, and that's not likely going to happen. We will be doing a cab kit eventually on this and the air. I think once we do the air and the cab kit, this unit will be up to 100% operational condition. So that is exciting. The floor mat is in excellent shape, as the insulation underneath of it. So I'm excited about that. New filter in here. Those are $92 now at Napa, those filters. So there has been times in the past where if you have a hot summer day, I have literally washed that filter out, literally, with a garden hose, and then just let it dry in the sun and put it back in, and it operates just as good as new. So you can save a little money there, but I opted not to do that this time. So anyway, get to it. The exhaust has been completely redone. We built that piece there. The flex piece, brought it down along the side of the combine. So we've got that all done, and we've got it aiming out away from the combine. So that's awesome. The goal for today is get the water to it, antifreeze, and get this thing rolling today. We need a rolling chassis today. Get her warmed up, check her out, run some things, and then we are ready to install table elevator. This has been completely recored. I took the unit down there. I don't think this unit had ever been cleaned. My radiator was completely packed full. when we washed it, and I didn't remove it to wash it. But the parts combine one was the same way. No maintenance had been done. So let me show you the core. This is the core. It had a lot of this calcium lime buildup. They said it was weeping along some of the seams, and they were worried that if they heated this up, that some of the seams, when they sealed these back up, that you can see there how they're covered. They said when they're like that, and then they would start leaking around the tubes. I don't know. I am not a radiator person. But what I can tell you is that I didn't think I had a problem, and they said I did. I opted to wait the days. It took 6 days, which we would probably be up and running if we hadn't done that. But the weather was with us this year. It's going to be 85, 87 today and tomorrow. It won't be cooling off till Tuesday after some rain, then a high of 73. You can see how on the sides this was still gunked up even after washing. So they said it would have been rotted, and I really agree with them on that, because I thought maybe they could boil it out and get rid of this stuff. I don't know. I'm not the expert, but I will tell you one thing. They're not cheap. Back in the 90s, I think it was, when I did some antique tractors, $500 to $600 would get you a record radiator. This here, all this work and core having built, $997. That's how expensive things are on a combine that's ready to go to the field. Now, I feel this is the most expensive part I've bought. I've had a lot of parts here in stock, but it's not cheap to get these back up to 100%. Giving you a status report. We have all the sheet metal and cowling put in there. Radiators in. Getting ready to hook up the bottom tube with part number 233-835M1. So everything's coming along nicely. Got all that in there. We spun it over. Does not hit the fan shroud. And then we're going to do this now, and then we're going to fill it and run it a little bit and see how everything responds before we put this big piece here that's supposed to keep it clean. So we'll keep you posted. All right, we have success. The radiator is fully reinstalled, and we have new seals around where this door hinges for keeping things clean, and it's going to work wonderfully. So we are ready to close the door and latch it, and we are there. We're getting ready to bring the table elevator into play. We had to put our hydraulic line underneath. This is for our header height control, but I'm going to get a new harness for that, even if I have to have one built. So this is looking really good, and we're going to have the table elevator on here shortly. Table elevator is installed. I need to go over to the main shop and get a box of 60 chain to connect that, and then we will be ready to fire it up, do a test run, and then get the wheel on and go drive it around. And then we're down to the screen and the sieves and picking up the corn head. These guys are getting excited. They want to get the platform on, and they're working hard because they want to get going. They're excited. Okay, moment of truth. Oh, that's nice. Excellent. Excellent. We got us a 540 that is field ready.